So, yeah, the Indiana Fever just destroyed the Aces. I'm surprised. I really am. I thought the Aces were going to put up better fight in this. I thought Indy were solid. I thought Indy were really, really solid here. I don't think Indy were anything special, but I think they showed up and played their game. They played the Steph White style. They played the game. They played the game they needed to play, and I feel like they did well. They did genuinely well, and I feel like everybody stepped up. Like Lexi was hitting some crazy shot clock shots. Like Lexi ended up with 10. Sophie went 3 of 6 from 3, or 3 of 5 from 3. All were like super deep shots. I thought Raven offensively was very good. Defensively, I thought she was a bit iffy. I thought Ty Harris was really good today again. She's just that role player point guard. But again, it is the big two. It's Kelsey Mitchell and it's Aaliyah Boston. Like, that is where this team goes, especially when Caitlin's not playing. Aaliyah Boston was letting it fly from 3 and it was going in. Aaliyah Boston was absolutely letting it fly from 3. Kelsey Mitchell, another 27-point game. And I'm going to be real. Like, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but the way Stephanie White wants this team to play, Kelsey Mitchell could be an MVP. The way Stephanie White wants this team to play. I'm not saying the way they play when Caitlin Clark's on the floor. The way she would ideally have this team play. They're better off with Ty Harris at the point. Like, it is mad to say this, but like, it's like saying, I don't know, if you had, hypothetically, Kyrie Irving is better all time than Chauncey Billups. But if you replace or is a better basketball player than Chauncey Billups, but if you replace Chauncey Billups with Kyrie Irving on those Pistons teams, they would have been worse. So I'm like, it feels a bit weird. Someone just said whisper. What happened? Oh, like Becky Hammon with Stephanie White. I mean, they still want anything to be lip read, to be honest. But it was a really weird one. It was a really weird one where it's like the Aces looked disinterested. Like, they looked disinterested. Chelsea Gray she looked like she didn't give a shit. Jackie Young was missing layups. Jewel Lloyd actually had a really good first half. Nalissa struggled a little bit. Cheyenne Parker-Tyus did all right early. Bree Turner is just terrible. And Kennedy Carter looked like she didn't want to be there. They looked just disinterested. But it doesn't really matter if your opponents look disinterested. Your job is to come out and win. And the Indiana Fever are now in a 3-game win streak against Vegas without Caitlin Clark. And yeah, this is a good overall, like, this is kind of what you want. You want these wins. You want to be in a position where you are 12-8. So, like, where do Indiana go here? Do Indiana go 3rd or 4th seed or something? Like, where did the Fever go at 12-8? So, looking at standings, 12-8. They're 6th seed. I didn't realize Dallas were 13-8. So if they go and beat LA, they're tied 4th, which is something where it's like you just assume that they're going to win that game. So they go in tied 4th if they win that game, and it's like they're a game behind the Valks in 3rd, and 2 games behind the Aces in 2nd. So Fever are in a really good spot then. They're in a really good spot. Because look, the way the league is parity-wise, everyone can beat everyone. Anyone can beat anyone. So it's all just about making the playoffs and hope you don't get a bad matchup. Like, if you're Indiana, you don't... I'm not saying a bad matchup for Indiana in the playoffs. Minnesota probably is. I think Minnesota is probably a really bad matchup. If I'm Indiana, I'm not looking for Minnesota. I think the Indiana Fever match up really well without Caitlin Clark to Vegas. I think the Indiana Fever will never beat the Valkyries without Caitlin Clark, but I think with Caitlin Clark, they match up pretty well to the Valks. It's a really weird one because it's like, you look at them in the playoffs and you think about them in the playoffs and you're like, the Indiana Fever with Caitlin or without Caitlin. Because it's like, the Indiana Fever match up really, really well to the Aces without Caitlin, but match up real bad with Caitlin. And you also take into account, AJ Wilson wasn't there. AJ Wilson not being there, like, you're not going to get too bogged down on the results of this game because, again, the best player in the world, what isn't here? But yeah, look, even looking at the expected points, 93 to 74. 93 to 74. Like, the expected points there have the Indiana Fever, like, very, very comfortably winning that game by even more than they did. Like, they won by 16 points. And it could have been and probably should have been more. I was very, very disappointed by the Aces today, but also the Fever got the job done. They weren't flashy. They just played solid basketball. And look, I'm being very real here. Like, you're not watching, like, I don't think anyone is out here pretending that watching a team play solid basketball is exciting. But they're winning. They're winning. If they win these games playing solid basketball, the problem is, again, with Caitlin Clark is you cannot play solid reactive basketball with Caitlin Clark on your team. You just can't. You just can't, because of how Caitlin Clark is wired as a player, how the way she sees the game, the decisions she makes. You just don't, unless, like, she becomes a non-passing ISO shot chucker, which then that doesn't work with Kelsey Mitchell either. So I think that's a bit of an interesting situation. But I'd say Vegas are probably regretting sitting AJ out for this game. I think they thought, again, and this is one thing I feel like with Vegas, is that they all, you can see it. Vegas have looked like they don't want to be there tons of times against the Fever. They think it's a formality they show up with the Fever without Caitlin. And they have a losing record. Over the last 2 years, they have a losing record against the Fever without Caitlin. So, yeah, I don't know. But this was a good win for Indiana. Pushes them a half a game ahead of the Atlanta Dream. And it gets them into that playoff spot by 3 games. Like, they're 3 games ahead of the tempo. So it looks like it's a guaranteed Indiana Fever are going to make the playoffs. But that's it. Like, you don't want to go and be in that playoff hunt because, like, I know they're 4.5 games ahead of the Mercury now. I just have this really weird feeling the Mercury are going to get that last playoff spot. And you don't want to lose 2-3 in a row and somehow get dragged close to 500. Like, you want to win 26, 27 games minimum in the regular season. Like, you don't want to be in that hovering around 500 range because that can be extremely tough to get out of. And it can be really tough.